My story begins in the Peruvian Amazon, where my father was clearing the way for oil extraction. My story began during the oil boom in Peru. I grew up in a traditional family, hardworking, Catholic, close. But what I remember most from those early years wasn't the stability. It was this persistent feeling, like something didn't fit, like I was searching for something I didn't know how to name. And then, as a teenager in Colombia, something happened that marked me forever. I had an experience with indigenous communities, and it wasn't like anything I had experienced before. This showed me a different way of being in relationship with life, where receiving also means giving back, where I was reminded that this planet we call home is alive, it sustains us, feeds us, and we belong to it. In that moment, a door opened in me and it never closed again. Later, we migrated to the United States. A bicultural family, trying to belong without losing who we were. Here I learned the value of hard work, the dignity of the immigrant. I built a life, started a family. I became a biologist. I work in the oceans with corals, with salmons, with fisheries, analyzed data, published reports. I did what I was supposed to do, but something was still missing. During those years, I kept returning to the Amazon, searching, trying to reconnect with this different way of living that I saw, the way indigenous people have practiced for generations. And during one of those years, an image appeared that I couldn't explain. An indigenous man alongside the Sachamama, the mythical serpent of the jungle. It wasn't rational, it was intimate. Like something was asking to be honored, like something needed to be returned. I didn't know what to do with that yet. But the answer came when I least expected it. I was on a boat explaining fishing data to Latinos and Asian communities in Northern California. And right there, something became clear. What was missing wasn't more information, more science, more technology. It was meaning, it was belonging. The understanding that this planet is our common home and that living in it implies something reciprocal. You receive, you care, you give back. That truth put me up against the wall. I had a career, stability, 2 young kids. Who was I to speak about this? With what right? I remember talking to my father. He grounded me with honest, practical questions. And my wife, she didn't just support me with words. With 2 young children at home, she chose to believe in that leap. And that trust became the bridge. So I sent the resignation email and I closed that door. And then the hard part began. I didn't know where to start. I had no experience building a nonprofit. There were moments I deep down believed this wasn't going to work. But I kept going because I understood that there was a message that needed to be heard, that there were communities waiting to receive it, that if we were going to build a healthy planet where all communities thrive, this wisdom couldn't stay silent. And slowly, I began to see that everything that I had lived, every place, every loss, every search, was pointing me to this moment. Because the son of the Amazon, the teenager who discovered another way of seeing, the immigrant who learned to belong without disappearing, the biologist on that boat who finally understood that the problem wasn't the data, it was the belonging. That story wasn't an obstacle. It was exactly the message. But this wasn't just my story. That feeling I was carrying of being close to a problem but far from the conversation wasn't mine alone. Latino communities in this country are disproportionately impacted by climate change. They feel it in the heat, in the polluted water and air, in their work, in their bodies, And yet, when decisions were being made, when movements were being built, when stories were being told, our voice wasn't there. Not because we were not doing the work, we were just not being heard. No one or few were making space for it. And something else was missing too, a message of reconnection with what we already knew, because caring for the land is not a new idea for us. It's part of who we are, it's in our memory, it's in our roots. It all came together on a night in New York City. My sister Vanessa and I had just listened to Al Gore speak about the urgency of the climate crisis. We walked out, found a taqueria nearby, sat down and asked each other a simple question. What can we do? We were not politicians, we were not millionaires, we were Latino members trying to understand our place in this movement and in this country. That's when Sachamama was born. So we started with the people that we knew and trusted. Small dinners, 10 people most, new homes. And the intention wasn't to explain, it was to listen. I remember that first dinner at my sister's house, watching the conversation open up, watching people come alive, stories surfacing, questions, ideas. And I understood something in that moment, that when our voice finds space, it ignites. Those dinners grew. We traveled, California, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Illinois, sitting with people around tables, listening, learning, sharing. Small groups became hundreds, and the community didn't just show up. It brought stories, questions, solutions. The collective voice was clear. We didn't just want information. We wanted tools, support, leadership, and all above, we wanted to belong. That's when our mission became clear, to build Latino climate leadership from our own identity, from this ancestral memory we all share that reminds us how to live in harmony with life, to receive, to care, to give back. We have reached millions of people, accompanied thousands of climate leaders making decisions that impact the future of their communities. And what we have learned is this: when Latino leadership has a seat at the table, the whole movement gets stronger. Because the climate crisis needs all the voices, especially the ones that have been missing. Today, after 13 years, I can tell you something with certainty. Latino leadership exists. It's not a potential, it's not a promise, it's real. But a calling without support is like a flame without fuel. We have seen this over and over. A leader grows, finds their voice, begins to move their community, and then the support runs out. The program ends. There is no one to sustain the next step. And that flame that took so much to ignite goes out. This moment, political, cultural, historical, is exactly when we need to bring Latino climate leadership to the forefront. We know this works. We have seen it. We call it climate leadership in action, and we measure it every 90 days. One person counts as a climate leader in action when they educate themselves in a class or cohort, take action through a campaign, or share their story through our media partners. Fellows who become educators, stories that shifted policy conversations, local actions that became national momentum, cleaner environments, thriving neighborhoods, a healthier planet. That is what happens when a community has space, tools, and voice. But we also know that what we have built together until now cannot stay here. There are leaders already stepping up. What makes the difference is whether the next step is supported. That's why we are launching Kawsay. Kawsay, in Quechua, the language of our ancestors, means living energy. It's not a program, it's not an event, it's a community of generous people who chose to sustain the fire together, month after month. So Latino climate leadership doesn't depend on isolated moments, but on consistent support that nourishes and sustains. Every month, a leader in your community gets the tools to take their next step. More voices supported, more knowledge turned into action, more organizing, more impact on the ground. That is climate leadership in action. That is what Kawsay makes possible. There is a moment when something becomes clear inside of us, not as an idea, but as a calling. I believe you have felt it. that longing to reconnect with the land, with your roots, with a way of living that makes more sense. Kawsay is the community that says, I feel it too, and I am willing to sustain it. So if you believe that Latino leadership belongs at the forefront of this movement, I invite you to join us, because leadership doesn't happen once. It's built month after month, sustained by people like you, and for people like you. You could be that person, and we could do this together.